Olá, boa tarde a todos. Gostaríamos de informar que hoje a nossa palestra vai ser diferente. Hoje não teremos uma tradução da palestra, porque ela será legendada. Então, hoje teremos uma forma diferente de apresentar aí o nosso tema. Para isso, gostaríamos de apresentar, hoje temos aqui Cecilia Mues. Cecilia Mues vai, então, apresentar para a gente o seu trabalho, que ela desenvolve junto à Universidade de Koblenz-Landau. O tema da Cecilia hoje é Tensões no Campo Santo, né? Sobre as questões que envolvem a sua pesquisa, sobre percepção do espaço e a percepção do Cemitério São Rafael, em Rolândia. Agradecemos a presença da Mariana e da Júlia, que farão as traduções necessárias. Vocês podem perguntar em português e essas perguntas serão traduzidas, não é? E agradecemos também a colaboração aqui dos nossos estagiários, o Stênio, Serpeloni, o Wilson e o Alê. E além da Leila, do Reinaldo e da Laurici, que nos acompanham aí diuturnamente. Então, Cecília, te entrego a palavra. Entrego a palavra nada, está gravado? Então, vamos assistir com atenção aí a palestra da Cecília. Boa tarde, meu abraço a todos.
Hello, good afternoon. We are here to hear Cecilia talking about the research, her research.
Hello, good afternoon.
And
We are here to hear
research about the São Rafael Cemetery. And the research is already, oh my God, I forgot. She already recorded, I remembered. She recorded the research, and then the subtitles are down so everybody can see what she's talking about. And Tatal had thanking everybody that is here and that made this event happen, like me and Julia, that are the translator, and Stênio, Alessandro, Laurici, Reinaldo, Will, and everybody else. So let's start.
Hello, Londrina. I hope you're all right. Thanks you for having me today. My name is Cecilia Mues. I am a master thesis student at the University Koblenz-Landau, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about my master thesis topic that is about a graveyard which is in the town Rollandia. And yeah, let's start.
What I'm gonna do now is show you some pictures of the graveyard. And we start with this picture because I find it's the first perfect impression of the graveyard from the day I saw it the first time. It was the day I was really mesmerized by this place because of its special atmosphere. You just not see the graveyard itself, but also a lot of trees. It's very, very green. There's a lot of color in it, but not just the architecture and the buildings and the stones, but also there you can literally see the weather in it. You see the light, you see the shadow that are playing with each other, and I find this picture gives you the perfect first impression. How a lot of different circumstances come together to build up on a special situation you are in. This is quite a very, very important for my topic of my master thesis. I also should say that I visited this place during a student conference we had 2 years ago together with the University of Londrina, and we studied together about colonialism in this era and visited also this graveyard. This visit was very impressive, and this picture shows my first impression of this place, and the impression that stayed most visual, and the impression that I have my best memory and connection with the place. And that's some reason why I chose to do my master thesis about this. The next picture you see is maybe at the first view a little bit confusing because it's not the graveyard. It's actually the environment where you can find the graveyard, and it's very important to say that this graveyard is not at the city, but actually a little bit quite outside. You see a lot of fields. You see a lot of the ground from around. There is not a lot of stuff actually. You can see far beyond to the horizon, and this is actually also very important to know that you have with the graveyard a place that's actually pretty isolated, but the graveyard itself with its green plants feels a little bit kind of like an oasis, like this living place that is somewhere in the nowhere. And there was also an interesting effect that is not quite usual. So that was one other thing that got my eye. Now I want to show you some different pictures of the graves itself. You also can see, or what you can see already is there are some big monumental graves. In the background you can see other different graves. There is quite a lot of different types. There are new graves, but also older graves. On the left you can see a grave which is maybe not in the best circumstances anymore, and it shows that this place some kind of lived. It has history, and you can see that it's not just a young place, but also a place that has already quite some history with it. But not just Christian graves are found at this graveyard, which is maybe the most interesting fact, that at this graveyard are also Jewish graves, and the old graves are also together with the Christian graves in one era. Very, very unique, that situation, because they are not separated. They there can be graves where Christian and Jewish graves are next to each other. This is very unique. You see a lot of Jewish symbolism together with Christian symbolism, and it's this fact that makes this graveyard such a unique place to visit. I just showed you pictures of Jewish graves. A few years back there has been a situation where the Rebbe came and decided that it was not okay to do Jewish funerals at the main graveyard. And as a consequence of this situation, this part of a separated graveyard was constructed. You can see on this picture. You can see it's very, very different from the rest of the pictures. It's very straight, it's very new. There is not a lot of color in the opposite to the other pictures, and there's quite a different feeling. But not just that, but also because the weather is different in this picture too. You have a lot more gray in the heaven, and it's some kind of different atmosphere that we get from this picture than from the others.
You already had your first impression, your first pictures of the graveyard I wanted to show you, and I already told you a little bit about the graveyard, yeah, and now we gonna talk a little bit about what's gonna happen in my speech. First, I'm gonna tell a little bit about the topic more, tell you a little bit more about how this graveyard came to be and what kind of theoretical analysis I'm gonna do, and then I'm gonna talk a little bit about my methodic, how I intend in doing my research on the place, and then we going to take some time to get answers out of this research and what we can say. So you saw first pictures that I showed you, and I told you a little bit already about the graveyard. Now I just want to get a little bit deeper in it. In the 1920s there has been a lot of colonialism. A lot of German people immigrated at this time to Brasilia and this area in Londrina. Also, not just in the 1920s, but also in the 1930s, also came a lot of German people to this era. Specialists, the first immigrants from the 1920s, got there because of economic reasons. They were poor and hoped to get a better life there. The other people from the 1930s came because they were not poor, but were political victims of the Nazi regime and hoped to live their life better. The interesting thing is that they are all were German and needed in some kind to work together, and because of that they established also a graveyard, São Rafael, or also known as the German graveyard. They have their graves together at this one place, and there has been no separate place for the Jewish guys. They have been all together, totally, I don't know, it could have been total coincidence if you have a Christian grave near to the Jewish, so that did really not matter. And then a few years back the Rebbe came and decided not to do more Jewish funerals on the normal or the main graveyard because there is no separate Jewish grave. And this is the reason why the separate graveyard I showed you in the last pictures was established. Yeah, and so came it to be. Exactly, and this is the main reason I want to do a research. For me, it is important that this research is not a classical one, not like I'm looking at the history of the place or are just talking to the people. No, I'm doing an atmospheric analysis of the place. This is the reason why I talked a lot about the atmosphere of the place, of the colors, what kind of light is there, what kind of feelings do you have when you're in the place, because I want to see how this place itself influence your behavior when you're there. And the second question is, how does this separation, this new Jewish part, influence the community and also the experience of being there? Does it feel like, has it some kind of special influence or change it the experience you got when you are for Ort, or if you are there at the place? Yes, exactly. So the other question is that I'm also asking myself is, because I'm not able to be for there at the place because of Corona and all these unfortunate things, why is it maybe useful to research atmospheres that are on the internet or that are mobile or digital? Because if you look around nowadays, pictures, movies or videos of landscapes and atmospheres that you just see or hear, but you're not there with your body, are so common nowadays, and maybe not really asked after that. It's quite a big field of knowledge that still has to be researched. So I try to do it with my kind of research that I'm doing today. The classical way to do a research on such kind of topic would be to make a historical research, do interviews, catalog the graveyard itself. But I don't want to do that. I think it's something that has already been done, and it's questionable if you would get new wisdom, new knowledge of it. So I thought of this first encounter I'd had and was so mesmerized because I felt and saw things that in the first place I didn't recognize with graveyards itself. Normally, when you think about graveyards, you think at this grumpy place, very serious, not really lifeful, and very serious place where you grieve people, where you have to be silent, and it's this place where you have some kind of very you have a picture that has been there before you go to the place. And the special thing was that this place, when I was there, was totally different, and it did not have this typical atmosphere that a normal graveyard has, and that I found extremely interesting, and I wanted to analyze this. This is the reason why I'm doing an atmospheric analysis of this place. The problem at this point is that atmospheric analysis, so like I want to do, needs to be by yourself. You need to be at the place, you need to feel the things, you need to feel the environment. But because of Corona, I couldn't come. That was the first intent I had when I wanted to do this research, but I couldn't come. So the special situation is now that I'm everything doing via internet, via medias, via pictures, videos, and so it's kind of different research, exactly, not of the place itself, but more of pictures and videos of the place. You need to remember this in this process. So the question is, at this moment, the question is if it's really helpful, or what kind of knowledge can you get if you research atmospheres of this kind of way without being there in person. The next question would be, why atmospheres? I already told you a little bit about my first impression when I was there, and that it was very special to feel this place, especially because I had different pictures and associations with it. So the important thing is to say that atmospheres in generally influences the human behavior and the human deception of things that are around us. The interesting thing is that this kind of knowledge is everywhere. We see it, we feel it, but you can't really grip it. It's not really asked after, so you have you have a topic there that it's there, but you can't grip it, you can't describe this phenomena that I'm trying to research. Exactly, and I think this kind of research I'm doing is able to give us new kind of knowledge about the connection between the humans or the things and animals and its environment they are living in, and how they are how they are influencing each other, and that there is some kind of special dynamic to it that makes it really, really interesting. So my methodic to analyze this atmosphere through digital methodic are 3 different types. I am showing you one type for my analysis today, that is the photo series. I already showed you a little bit. Then the second one is a little bit more special because it's you could say that is experimental from my being. I would like to have it that people just get a smartphone or a video camera and go to the graveyard and film themselves how they do a walkabout and talk about it. They gonna tell about their feelings, what they are seeing, what do they feel, do they have maybe stories they're telling, is there something special about it? It's something like that, and then I'm gonna analyze it. The third methodic is like a written, is like lyrical, like short written impressions. Yeah, like that's maybe special because in written impressions they have this experience that stands out for you, and you are remembering a lot, and that can show maybe the most the biggest impression and feeling you have about a landscape or a place. So yeah, and as I said, today we are gonna focus on photos of the graveyard.
To analyze atmospheres in landscapes or in the photographs like I do it here, I'm using a theory or methodic by Maria Ulber. Maria Ulber created 3 levels of dissection of landscapes in which you can describe atmosphere and see how the things, the different actors and the different perspectives of a landscape and things play together to create atmosphere. These 3 levels are the massive level, the mobile level, and the ephemeral level, which I will explain at the example of the picture you see now and some other pictures to get different perspectives of this methodic. And this picture I'm gonna show you how the mobile, massive and ephemeral level are working and how you can analyze with it atmospheres in landscapes and also in pictures. You can see here in this photo we are concentrating on the massive level. That means it's everything that is very massive in the world. Stones, buildings, trees, everything that is not really changing over the time or just very, very slowly. Also, it's also like in this picture, it would be the way, it would be the stones that are maybe a little bit broken over the time, but they're still standing and won't change really, and also not from one moment to the other. This is very, very interesting. The massive level is in some kind of way the ground on which the mobile and the ephemeral level are working on and are interacting with. Another example for the massive level is the Jewish section of the graveyard. You see here the stone house. You can see this is very, very new. There is just not green yet. There is this place is not lived, and it has not this character of the place that is already very old. It some kind of has a different feeling than the other picture, and one of the reasons why is the massive level, because there are quite a lot of differences between it of the structure of the place. This is a very straight place, where on the other side, on the first picture, the place is not that straight. There is more life in it. Or in this picture, you can actually see the stone wall, which is quite of interesting because it's like a barrier that is the reason you just can't walk inside it. To get inside the section, you need to get out of the graveyard, get around and take another way in. That's a big difference, because in the other graveyard you just can walk everywhere to every single grave, look at it, and yeah, because of this stone wall there is this separation, this barrier that is like this massive structure that influences your movement that you can do on this graveyard. Now we are going to talk about the mobile level. At the mobile level, or on the mobile level, we are talking about all things that are moving, like things, animals, but also people. The interesting part is the mobile level is dependent on the massive level and how the massive level is constructed. So we have here the area that is very open, everything is reachable, and you can walk on the whole ground until you get to the Jewish section that has a barrier with the wall. Also interesting or important is how you're dressed. What are you wearing? What is signaling it that you're wearing? So we have here a situation that is very leisure. There is no funeral. We are actually, the people there are maybe a little more like tourists. They're visiting the site, and it's another situation and another atmosphere as is if you were on a funeral. The last level we are talking about is the ephemeral level. On this level, or about this level, we can say that all things are included that you can't control and that you can't touch or grab, like water, like sunshine, shadows, weather situation, sound phenomena, everything that is there but fleeting and can be gone in a second. Like rain is there, of course you can touch it, but it will be gone in the next second. It's like with shadow and light, you can't control the situation. And important is that the ephemeral level can change from one moment to the other. So one moment it's hot and it's sunny and it's a beautiful day, and weather can change it into, for example, a very dangerous or grumpy day when the weather is just bad. And this influences a place like a graveyard totally strong. So maybe my impression would have been a different one if the weather would have been different. That is very important to say. What you also can say about the ephemeral level is that you can't control it. You have quite some control about the massive level, about the architecture, about the ways, about the whole area and how it is constructed, like the Jewish New Pot. Humans and animals are all also controllable to a point, but so not always, but in the concept it is controllable. The ephemeral level is not controllable. You have no influence if it's raining or if the sun is shining, if it's hot or cold. You have to live with the situation that is produced by the ephemeral level.
Now you heard a little bit about the 3 different levels of Marie Elber and how you can describe different atmospheres. Now I would like to pull these different strings together to get some answers to it. Well, so you heard from the massive level of the main graveyard that this graveyard is old, it's lived, it grew over the time, it's not straight, it's broken, and sometimes it's not straight. You have a lot of history that you can see in the different graves. Some are great, some are broken, some are you can see some graves even more because they are so full of green. Yeah, and it shows the special history also of the place. You have these different graves over the place. You have this Jewish graves over there with a lot of Jewish symbolisms that are not just limited to one place, but they are also in this graveyard. On the other side, the new separate Jewish part seems a little bit like like really a separate part, like it's hurt. It's like a cut in this graveyard that is lived, that is in some kind organic, that somehow has a story. And the Jewish part in this is like new. It's very straight. It's life has not found its way to go inside it, and it's kind of yeah, the question is, why is that? And the question is also, what kind of consequences from this circumstance is there for the group? Not just because there is not just because there is a new section that is just Jewish, but also does it mean that the community itself is separated too, or do they maybe like it? Do the Jewish people like it that they do now have their own separate part, or do they like it more? Would they like it more to have a grave on the main cemetery? And yeah, this is all these things should be considered in this atmospheric analysis. So, and at the end, we are now finished. At the end, I already told you I'm not finished with my thesis. I just actually started a little bit, and the photos I already have, and I'm already researching for it. But I need help. I'm not there for at the place. I need really help. I need people who would like to work together with me. Maybe would have fun to do some kind of walkings on the graveyard. Just get your smartphone or a video camera, take little videos and show me how you feel about the graveyard. That would be great. Or if you know people who have some kind of history with it, who can tell me stories about it, or families that are very, very present at the graveyard, that would be great. I take everything that I get, and I really, really hope that you can help me. If you know someone, or if you have fun by yourself, you can write to me at my email address that you can see hopefully somewhere. Hopefully somewhere I gave it to Tatar, so he has also my email address. He can give it to anyone. So yeah, I really, really thank you for your time. I hope it was a little bit interesting for you. It was an interesting experience for me to make this, or to take a video of this, and not actually seeing you right now. But I hope you understood it, and as I understand it, that I'm right there and can answer questions if you have one. So thank you very much, and muy obrigado. And we hopefully we talk to each other now. Thank you.
Boa tarde a todos. Guten Abend. Preciso agradecer.
Good afternoon.
Preciso agradecer a palestra da Cecilia, com um tema muito interessante sobre a nossa região. E eu queria deixar aberto também para as pessoas que quiserem fazer perguntas pelo chat. Nós vamos fazer a tradução, as meninas vão fazer, né? A Júlia e a Mariana. E agora nós vamos dar sequência com as nossas perguntas que foram enviadas por nós aqui do NDPH e por outras pessoas também.
So now we are gonna hear some questions that we have, and Cecilia, you are not obligated to answer all the questions, so feel free to answer them, okay? So let's start.
A primeira pergunta é da Laureci. Quando você coloca que vai analisar como as pessoas se sentem no Cemitério São Rafael, por se tratar de sentimentos individuais, não torna uma pesquisa muito subjetiva? Você vai usar na sua pesquisa trabalhos ligados à psicologia ambiental e à filosofia?
So hi Cecilia, this question is from Laurici. And the question is, when you say that you're gonna analyze people's feeling about the São Rafael Cemetery, and because it's individual feelings, don't you think that it turns your research into subjective research? Like, are you going to work with research about environmental psychology and philosophy?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I am from the era of ethnology, if you know what it is. So, and ethnology says, or different than sociology, where you're working with a lot of data. Ethnology has always this. Yeah.
Yeah. So, a Cecilia disse que adorou a pergunta e está dizendo agora que ela trabalha com a etnologia, que é um ponto de vista diferente da sociologia. You can continue.
Okay, and ethnology is very subjective. So you have was just one point of view, but you are very deep in the topic. So you have you analyze one small error, but with a lot of I don't know how to say it, with a lot of personal influence.
Então, a Cecília disse que na etnologia você tem um objeto, mas é muito específico. Então, você usa um objeto, mas você analisa ele de forma bastante específica, com bastante influência pessoal do observador.
Yeah, so my research can be viewed more like a portrait and not a photograph. So my research, it should be very clear that it's just one point of view, because I'm not analyzing the big, a lot of people that I don't want. I don't want that. I won't really have 3 or 4 people that are telling me very personal stuff, so that I get a personal feeling for the situation.
A pesquisa da Cecília é mais como um retrato e não uma fotografia. Ela não quer analisar tudo de forma geral, ela quer analisar de forma mais específica. Ela prefere que poucas pessoas, como 4 pessoas, digam a ela os sentimentos pessoais que eles tiveram no objeto de estudo dela. Ela não quer analisar o geral, ela quer analisar o específico.
That's it.
Hey.
Ótimo. Muito bacana. Vamos passar agora para a segunda pergunta. Pergunta do Alessandro. Olá, Cecília. Sua pesquisa vai ao encontro com as perspectivas da memória. Você sabe dizer se a perspectiva da atmosfera concreta consegue criar um discurso histórico próprio? Se sim, quais as principais ferramentas para isso?
So the second question is from Ale, and he says that your research meets the memory point of view. So do you know if the concrete atmosphere perspective can create its own historical speech? If so, which are the main tools for that?
I find that is a very complicated question. But I think, yeah, that is possible to create with atmosphere historical memory. I think there's a lot of manipulation to it. Want to?
A Cecilia disse que essa pergunta é bastante complicada, mas ela acha que sim, é possível criar essa atmosfera do ponto de vista histórico.
Atmospheric as a whole topic also says that it's used in politics very much too, because there's a lot of manipulation of feelings, and feelings has also to do a lot with atmosphere, and of course that you can do it with historical topics too.
A atmosfera é muito usada, do ponto de vista histórico, é muito usada na política, porque há muita manipulação de sentimentos. Então, é claro que você pode usar esse estudo de atmosfera do ponto de vista histórico e do ponto de vista político.
I'm thinking about monuments like monuments big political people build for themselves to create a memory for yourself. So that is also, of course, creating an atmosphere. You see it a lot of I think every country has these monuments that are building, that are creating landscape and environment.
Exemplo desse uso da atmosfera em contexto político é, por exemplo, a construção de monumentos históricos para figuras políticas. Elas são construções feitas para criar sentimentos e manipular a paisagem. Então, é com o intuito político.
Agora eu vou fazer outra pergunta, que também é uma pergunta do Alê. Cecília, você apontou durante as suas falas que a pesquisa parte de imagens do cemitério. Como sabemos, ainda mais em tempos de pandemia, o uso dos meios digitais vem crescendo a cada dia. Na sua visão, como você percebe a diferença na forma que a memória é construída quando parte de um indivíduo que está inserido na atmosfera efêmera, ou seja, presente no espaço do cemitério, para alguém que a fala seja a partir do contato com imagens e vídeos digitais?
So the third question also comes from Ale, and he says, Cecilia, during your speech, you point out that your research comes from pictures of the cemetery. As we all know, especially in the pandemics, the use of digital medias is increasing more and more each day. So how do you see the difference in the way the memory is built when it comes from an individual that makes part of the ephemeral atmosphere, that is, makes part of the cemetery space in general, to someone that, like you, had more contact with the picture and videos than being there in person?
Could you say the last part again? I don't know. It's a long question.
So how do you see the difference in the way the memory is built when it comes from an individual that makes part of the ephemeral atmosphere, that is, makes part of the cemetery space in general, to someone that, like you, had more contact with the picture and videos that been there than the people that been there in person?
All right, so the question is, which difference is between being there in person and just seeing the pictures? Okay, yeah, that is quite actually a big question of my thesis in general, because I see that problem two that I have during this research.
Essa pergunta é grande parte da tese dela de mestrado, porque esse é um dos grandes problemas que ela quer resolver.
I think the big difference is that if you look at pictures and videos, you have just one very, very particular point of view. There is just this picture you're seeing, and that's it. So it's like just this little window you have of that place. That is the one thing.
Então, quando você olha para as fotos e para os vídeos, você tem um ponto de vista muito específico sobre aquilo. É como uma pequena janela que você tem sobre o assunto. É uma foto e um vídeo, e é isso. Essa é a primeira parte do problema.
The second part is that it also can be very good to just see a picture, because a picture, if it's a good picture, it can show a very specific atmosphere really, really good or really well. Like with the picture I showed you, this play of shadow and light. I find that that picture showed this very specific moment of the ephemeral level of this shadow light game.
A segunda parte desse problema é que quando você vê uma foto, pode ser uma coisa boa ver apenas uma foto. Se a foto for boa, ela vai mostrar essa atmosfera específica de uma forma muito boa, como a foto que a Cecilia mostrou na palestra, com sombra e luz. Aquela foto ilustra muito bem o nível efêmero da teoria que ela usou.
And of course, if you're in person there, you are able to feel the place with all of your five senses, just not your eyes, but also your ears. You're hearing a lot of stuff. You just feel the weather. You feel if it's hot or cold. So you take the place, you see the place in its whole, and you're feeling the place as a whole. What's of course you don't have in a picture or a video.
Então, quando você está lá pessoalmente, você pode não só olhar para o ambiente como você faria numa foto, mas você pode sentir o ambiente com os seus 5 sentidos, não apenas ver. Então, você toca, você cheira, você vê, você sente o clima, coisas que você não teria quando olhando apenas para uma foto.
That's it.
Agora eu vou fazer uma pergunta do professor Marco. Cecilia, podemos localizar suas observações no campo ou domínio da percepção do espaço? Para você, existe alguma relação entre espaço ou paisagem? Existe a relação entre espaço, paisagem e afetividade?
So this question comes from Tatal. And it is, Cecilia, in which field of space perception we find your observations? For you, is there a relation between space, landscape, and affection?
I'm not quite sure how to answer that question. It's my research is a lot about deception of places, of landscape. So it's about the relationship between landscape and yourself as the subject who is seeing it. So there is this connection between these two, which is the interesting thing about it.
Então, a pesquisa da Cecilia é muito sobre a percepção de paisagens. E isso passa muito pela relação entre o observador e a paisagem. A pesquisa dela é muito sobre essa conexão.
Does that answer his question?
Isso responde sua pergunta, Tatal? Yes.
Sim.
Yes?
Yes,
Okay.
Agora nós vamos passar para uma pergunta do Wilson. Cecilia, gostaria de te parabenizar por sua apresentação e me colocar à disposição caso precise de alguma informação ou suporte em relação à sua pesquisa. Tenho uma pergunta para você. O que você pesquisava antes de estudar o cemitério de Rolândia? Além disso, o interesse de estudar o São Rafael se deu durante o Summer School, realizado na UEL em 2019? Ou você já tinha conhecimento dele antes mesmo de vir ao Brasil? Obrigado pela sua apresentação.
And this question comes from Wilson. And Cecilia, I'd like to congratulate you for your presentation and to make us available to help you with any information or even help with your research. I have a question for you. What had you researched before researching the cemetery? And besides, did the interest to study São Rafael Cemetery come during summer school here as well in 2019, or you've already known the cemetery before coming to Brazil? Thanks for your presentation.
The first part I get not really well. Can you repeat that again?
What had you researched before researching the cemetery? That's it?
Yeah, okay, good. No, I did not know the cemetery before. It was part of our tour. We married during our summer school. It has not really been the main topic. I would say it was just an evening or we spent there, and yeah, as I said, I found these 2 hours we were there so special that it has stayed in my mind, and I wanted to do something about it.
Então,
Yeah, and I.
Perdão.
Yeah, okay.
A Cecilia não conhecia o cemitério, foi parte do Summer School que aconteceu na UEL em 2019. Não foi o tema principal, nós só passamos uma tarde no cemitério, mas as 2 horas que ela passou no cemitério foram muito especiais para ela, como ela disse na palestra.
And I did no research before that about this place. That all just came after.
E a Cecilia não pesquisava, antes disso, não pesquisava o cemitério, e isso só surgiu para ela depois da visita ao cemitério.
Tá, ok. Cecilia, now we are going to the longest question. Please brace yourself.
Okay.
Essa pergunta fui eu que fiz e ela vai dessa maneira. Pesquisei superficialmente sobre a artista doutora que você utiliza como referência. Encontrei um trabalho em que ela fotografa o encontro do oceano e do horizonte durante alguns trimestres. Observei algumas das imagens e o local escolhido por Marie Huber, e o que mais cativou minha atenção foi a pura e simples onipresença da natureza naqueles momentos. Na sua escolha de local, bem como nas imagens selecionadas por você, o elemento humano está muito presente e destoa da paisagem asséptica de Marie Huber. A minha dúvida é a seguinte: é possível desenvolver um estudo que flua nessa direção de analisar a atmosfera em um cenário ou paisagem inteiramente urbano e desprendido do verde e da paleta de cores da natureza? Tal como fotografar a Cracolândia, um grande gueto e reduto de venda de drogas em São Paulo, e assim observar as asperezas e desdobramentos do capitalismo em metrópoles?
Okay, so let's go. So I took a superficial look on the artist and doctor that you use as a reference, and I found a paper where she photographs the ocean and the horizon encounter during some trimesters. I saw some of the pictures and the place chosen by Mary Huber, and what caught my attention was the pure and simple omnipresence of the nature of those moments. Your choice of researching the cemetery and the picture select.
I can't see her anymore. I don't hear anything. She's gone.
From Uber's scenery.
I think you have to do it again because you have been gone for a moment there.
I'm sorry.
But you can start after there has the nature has been very present, I think. That I heard, or that I still heard.
All right. So your choice of researching the cemetery and the picture selected, the human element is really present and have really contrast from Uber senior acceptance. And here's my doubt. Is it possible to develop a study that flows in the sense of analyzing the atmosphere in a completely urban landscape, a landscape that is detached from the green and from nature, such as photographing the Cracolândia, that is a huge drug ghetto and a drug selling stronghold in São Paulo, and that way observing the roughness and unfoldings of capitalism in metropolises?
Yeah, interesting question. The main reason why I chose Uber is that she, as the first person, presented us with a method to analyze atmosphere itself. Because, as I told before, to describe atmosphere and to grab it as this phenomenon, it's very hard. Because atmosphere is there, but you can't touch it really. You can't, you just can't describe it. It's like a feeling you have.
Então, a Cecilia acha a pergunta muito interessante. Obrigada, Stênio. A razão para ela escolher a Marie Uber, que é a teórica que ela escolheu para pesquisar, é que ela foi a primeira teórica a apresentar um método para você analisar atmosferas, o que é uma coisa muito difícil. Como ela disse no vídeo, analisar a atmosfera é difícil porque a atmosfera simplesmente não dá para tocar. Você consegue ver, mas você não consegue tocar.
And of course, she did this with landscapes, with a lot of nature in it, yes. But I still think you can do this with more urban places too. You have just maybe another relationship between the mobile level and the ephemeral level, because landscapes maybe tend not to change that much, but in the urban level, even the massive level tend to change much. But I still think you can use this method, but it is still a topic that is very, very new. So analyzing atmosphere itself it doesn't exist for very long already.
A Cecilia diz que a Marie Uber usou a paisagem natural para criar o método dela, mas a Cecilia acha que é possível usar esse método para analisar a paisagem urbana. É só você usar mais a combinação dos níveis, móvel e efêmero, porque na paisagem urbana, o nível massive, que em inglês acho que é o nível massivo, né, em português, na palestra, ele também muda bastante, ao contrário da paisagem natural, em que esse nível não muda muito. Mas ela ressalta que essa teoria de análise de atmosferas é muito nova e não acontece há muito tempo, então tudo pode ser possível.
Just as another maybe interesting information, Marie Uber also made an atmospheric analysis of a graveyard in Germany. So it actually fits pretty good.
Um fato interessante é que a Marie Uber também usou a análise dela em um cemitério na Alemanha, que é uma coisa muito interessante.
Ok, obrigado. Danke für die Antwort. Agora nós vamos passar para a pergunta da Leila. Cecília, muito grata por aceitar participar do nosso evento. Quando você escolheu pesquisar os cemitérios, houve alguma preocupação com a religião, seus sagrados, sua memória? Como você transitou neste universo tão particular para as famílias com os seus mortos, seus entes queridos que estão ali enterrados?
So this question comes from Leila. Cecilia, thank you for accepting to participate in our event. When you choose to research graveyards, was there any worry about religion, sacred, and memory? How did you carry over this particular universe, this family with their dead loved ones?
Can you repeat it again, please?
Sure. When you choose to research graveyards, was there any worry about religion, sacred, and memory? How did you carry over this particular universe, this family with their dead loved ones?
Also, very interesting question. Of course, the topic is there. That is maybe a topic that's not the easiest one, because you have religion, you have maybe people who grieve a lot. But my main focus is not not religion itself, but more the place and the place itself, how it can influence people.
É muito interessante a pergunta. É claro que o tópico não é muito fácil por causa desses aspectos que a Leila citou na pergunta, que são religião, luto e as famílias. Mas o foco principal da Cecilia não foi no religioso, foi no lugar em si e como ele afeta o observador.
And I think religion comes into the picture when we look at this problem that this Jewish part has been separated, because this happened because of the religion and the tradition, that it says that you need this this pure Jewish section to get a real Jewish grave. So, and I think then we need to talk about religion, and then we can look how this physical separation influences the place and maybe the community itself.
Então, a Cecilia acha que a religião entra na pesquisa quando a gente olha principalmente para a parte do cemitério judaica, que é separada do resto do cemitério, como a gente viu na palestra. A parte da religião entra nesse aspecto porque a parte separada foi separada por motivos religiosos, porque pensavam que a parte judaica tinha de ser separada para ter uma parte puramente judaica. E aí que entra a parte religiosa, em que se analisa o porquê dessa separação.
Agora nós passamos para a última pergunta. E antes disso, eu queria avisar para vocês que a lista de presença está disponível ali no chat. E se vocês tiverem algum comentário, alguma extra para fazer, recomendo que façam agora, porque nós vamos passar para a última pergunta, que é a pergunta do Reinaldo. Sendo os cemitérios no mundo ocidental não somente local de descanso dos mortos, mas um grande ambiente de fonte inesgotável da produção da cultura material, com seus mausoléus, iconografia e as belas artes religiosas, eu gostaria de saber como estudar a cultura material dos mortos quando há uma grande tendência mundial de espalhar as cinzas dos defuntos por aí.
So before entering the question, Stênio was talking about the presence list, like for all those who watched the event on YouTube. So let's go to the question. And this question comes from Reinaldo, and he asks, as the graveyards in the Western world are not only rest places for the dead, but also an endless source about the culture material production, with its mausoleums, iconography, and religious fine arts, I would like to know how to study material culture of the dead when there's a world trend of spreading dead people's ashes around.
Well, That is a good question. I don't know how it is in other countries, but in Germany, I mean, it is not allowed to do that. If you bury someone or if someone dies, you need to have a grave. Actually, you can have a grave in the ground, or you can have your ash in I don't know the word in this urn, and then also be placed in a graveyard. But I mean, here you are not allowed to do that. But it's a good question how you are doing research without graveyards itself. But I think it's a trend that will be gone maybe. That is interesting. I don't know how I should answer that, actually.
A Cecília primeiro disse que é uma boa pergunta, mas ela não sabe como é em outros países. Porém, na Alemanha, não é permitido espalhar cinzas de pessoas mortas. Quando uma pessoa morre, você tem que ter um lugar para os restos mortais. Pode ser um túmulo, pode ser uma urna funerária para cinzas, mas não é permitido espalhar, não é permitida essa prática, e ela acha que essa tendência não vai continuar por muito tempo.
Bom, não temos mais perguntas, mas eu vou ler alguns comentários. Cecilia, I will read some comments that will be interesting for you, I think. O primeiro comentário é da Manu Pavani, que ela diz que a parte judia do cemitério alemão está muito verde hoje em dia, com muito verde cobrindo os túmulos. Talvez agora passe uma outra sensação. Cecilia, the Jewish section is very green nowadays, with green glass. Maybe now could pass another sensation. O outro ponto é da Cássia Popolin. Ela te dá parabéns pela sua pesquisa, ela adora, ama aquele lugar. Ela já fotografou lá uma vez usando o fog filter para criar uma sensação de mistério. Congratulations for your research. I love this place. I photographed it once using the fog filter to create a sensation of mystery that I can when I'm there.
That's it? Okay. The comment about that the Jewish part is green now, I find that very interesting because it shows how this mobile level just works, that there are elements that are changing, and that these mobile parts can change our deception of it. So when I was there, it also looked different to the photos I showed you.
Sobre o primeiro comentário, que acho que foi da Manu Pavani, a Cecília disse que é muito interessante isso sobre a mudança do ambiente do cemitério, porque mostra como o nível móvel da teoria da Marie Huber funciona. Por exemplo, as coisas estão diferentes agora e a percepção, portanto, muda. Quando ela esteve lá, as coisas também eram diferentes do que estão nas fotos. Não é sempre a mesma percepção.
Yes, and I think this process is also very important to include in this research, which I will be doing, because, of course, this is not, this place I photographed in that moment is not like it will stay. It's clear that this era will grow with time, but I found it so interesting at that moment because it was like the total opposite of the main graveyard at that moment.
E a Cecília acha que esse processo é muito importante para incluir na pesquisa dela, porque o ambiente não fica como está nas fotos. Ele muda, e isso muda a percepção, e ela quer incluir essa mudança na pesquisa dela.
A sentence which I heard about it is very interesting, that the graveyard itself was full of life, was alive. And at the same time, this new Jewish part where no grave is yet, is some, or was some kind of dead. I'm not saying that this is it now, but at that point it was not alive. And this conclusion I find very interesting, that the place that where the dead were buried was alive, and the place where no dead was buried was kind of dead.
A Cecilia disse uma frase que ela acha muito interessante, que é sobre o cemitério de Rolândia. O cemitério tinha muita vida, era como se ele estivesse vivo, mas a parte judaica separada, que não tinha nenhum corpo enterrado ainda, era como se estivesse morta. E isso para ela é muito curioso, essa relação entre vida e morte. Na parte em que há mais corpos mortos enterrados, é a parte mais viva, e a parte em que não há corpos mortos enterrados é a parte que mais parece morta.
Realmente muito importante, muito interessante esse último ponto de vista que a Júlia traduziu para nós na fala da Cecília. Seguindo com os comentários, tem um comentário do Gustavo Leme, que hoje estava aqui com a gente, e ele deu parabéns para a Cecília, disse que é uma pesquisa muito interessante. Cecilia, Gustavo Leme said that your research is very interesting and give you congratulations. Fabiana Paz também concorda que a pesquisa é super interessante e ela é grata por você compartilhar essa entrevista conosco. Cecilia, Fabiana Paz also said that your research is very interesting and she's thankful for your sharing it with us.
You're welcome. I really loved it. It was really, really fun. It's good.
De nada, ela disse, ela amou fazer a pesquisa, foi muito divertido.
And I'm really happy, or it was great how many questions there has been. That's cool.
Obrigada pela quantidade de questões que houve aqui, foi muito bom.
Nós também agradecemos o interesse das pessoas que estão aqui acompanhando com a gente nessa tarde. Agora nós encerramos as perguntas e vamos fazer uma pequena pausa antes de voltar.
Eu gostaria muito de agradecer a Cecilia Mues, que passou essa tarde conosco, nos ensinando uma série de questões sobre como olhar, como cheirar, como sentir. Então, essa perspectiva de ler os espaços, essa perspectiva de ler as paisagens por todos os poros, com todas as sensações, é fantástico. Foi fantástico. Então, eu gostaria de agradecer a presença e a disponibilidade da Cecília e a presença de todos vocês que participaram conosco nessa tarde, nesse início de tarde aqui no Brasil e início de noite lá na Alemanha. Danke, Cecilia.
So Tatal is thanking everybody for being here and staying here with us, with all the questions and perspectives, and that's all. Thank you, Cecilia.
everybody for being here and staying here with us with all the questions and perspectives. And that's all. Thank you, Cecilia. Everybody for being here and
Well, that was really
all the
a
questions
great.
and perspectives. And
Okay. Yeah, thank you for this really cool session. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, thank you for having me. And I wish you all well evening. Yeah, it's not. You have maybe 3 o'clock or so, so you have the whole day. But I also wish you already a great evening because it's here's dark.
A Cecília desejou a todos, agradeceu a todos, desejou a nós uma boa tarde, uma boa noite, apesar de aqui serem apenas 4 horas.